à la danseuse, they call it in French, dancing on the pedals. Some people just make it look so smooth and so elegant, and yet some people dread it, mostly because they find it pretty hard. Well, I think that riding out of the saddle is 90% technique and only 50% effort. So here is a guide on how to ride out of the saddle as smoothly as a gazelle. Let's start from the beginning. Why ride out of the saddle anyway? Mainly, it's to generate more torque by adding body weight to the force you exert on the pedals. That means you can generate more power, for short durations at least. Not only does your body weight help move the pedals when you stand, you also recruit more muscles in your arms and back, which contribute to the force you can exert. That's why riding out of the saddle is helpful when the going gets steep, to generate more power for a short time to get you over that steep section. It's also why riders often get out of the saddle to attack or sprint in races, but in this video I'm just going to talk about climbing. Frankly, I think my attacking days are over and I have never been able to sprint at all. Another reason to ride out of the saddle is that many people find it gives a bit of relief to their back and bum, just standing up for short periods. Now, I used to hate long, flat races, not just because I was rubbish at them, but also just because I found it really painful to stay sitting down for hours and hours. So if riding out the saddle is more powerful, why not do it all the time? Well, because it's harder work, because you're supporting your own body weight and you're using more muscles. So a lot of people find that their heart rate is actually higher when they're riding out the saddle. Therefore, use this technique judiciously, especially if you're one of those people that finds it very tiring. You could, for example, do just short bursts of 30 to 60 seconds on a long climb to relieve your back. And do bear in mind that it's very hard to eat and drink while riding out the saddle, so if you do it for the whole climb, you'll probably end up dehydrated and a bit hungry. You should choose your moment to stand based on the gradient and the road surface. Now, standing to ride is most useful when you need most torque, i.e. when the road is steep. But if the road surface is slippery, for example, wet and greasy or mossy, or there's a load of loose gravel, well, avoid that moment, because as your weight shifts forward to stand, you'll momentarily have a bit less traction under the rear tyre, so there's a slightly higher chance of slipping out. If you're out riding with a group, be aware of the people around you before you stand. Now, it goes without saying, but if someone's right next to you, you don't want to veer sideways into them when you stand up. Similarly, don't suddenly put out so much power that you ride into the back wheel of the person in front of you. And crucially, because this happens a lot and some people don't even realise they do it, when you stand up, try to avoid kicking the bike back like that. So when you do stand, try to put down one harder pedal stroke to conserve the momentum of your bike and body. Kickback is a problem in a group because it means you might take out the front wheel of the rider behind you. So before you start standing in the group, practice on your own. And a lot of groups like it if you wave your hand behind your bum as a little signal before you stand up. It's hard to hold a high cadence standing, trust me, although it can be a fun training exercise. So if you want to ride out of the saddle to relieve your back, but the road hasn't got any steeper, you'll want to change gears. For example, 2 sprockets smaller at the back so that you have a slightly harder gear when you stand up. A higher gear will also provide a bit of extra resistance to prevent your feet from running away from you on the pedals. Now, if on the other hand, you're standing up just to get you up a very viciously steep section of road, well, you won't need to change gear because your cadence will already be low and you'll need all that extra torque just to keep turning the pedals. Also, it's been said before, but I'll say it again. Choose the right gears. Even standing won't get you up to Murhui if you've opted for 42-23 as your smallest gear. You should try to hold your weight as much as possible over the saddle. So hold yourself backwards over the bike rather than standing over the handlebars. This is because the more weight you have over the back wheel, the better traction you'll have. So it's especially important if the road is wet and slippery or you're on gravel. Now, I might not be the best person to lecture about this because when I was racing, if I ever attacked on a steep, wet climb, my back wheel would always skid out. So clearly, I was doing it wrong. Ow. Right, now to what I think is the key aspect of technique for riding out of the saddle. You should sway the bike and not swing your body. That's because even if you don't own an amazingly light superbike, your bike will weigh less than you. I mean, maybe not if you're touring with a lot of luggage, but apart from that, your bike will be lighter. It's simply more efficient to move the bike than your body weight. Practice it. Keep your body as still as possible when you're out of the saddle and sway the bike. Just remember to try to keep riding in a straight line. When I was racing, I would always do a bit of a slalom, which was also not very efficient. Now, if you find riding out of the saddle really difficult and your arms and shoulders get tired and you find it hard to control your body weight swinging around, well, maybe you should consider doing some core stability training because it's really hard to get away with a weak core when you're riding out of the saddle. Switching a small amount of time from your cycling to core exercises can lead to big gains. As usual, practice makes perfect, so if riding out of the saddle doesn't come naturally to you, well, make sure you practice regularly. Why not put in some blocks of seated standing intervals on one of your weekly rides? Hopefully this video will help you to tackle steep, long climbs by riding à la danseuse like a ballerina. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you want to watch a video showing you specifically how to train your core stability for climbing, click down here.